I always believed my family was unbreakable. We weren't perfect, not even close, but we were held together by the kind of love that felt steady and unshakable. We had Sunday dinners that stretched late into the evening, filled with laughter that echoed for hours. My mother, gentle and soft-spoken, was the heart of our home. My father, strong and disciplined, was the pillar we all leaned on. For the longest time, I thought nothing could ever destroy what we had built together. I never imagined that one decision, one unthinkable demand, would pull our entire world apart. But betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people you love most, the ones you would have defended without hesitation. It began on an ordinary evening, the kind of evening so normal that you never suspect life is about to shift forever. I still remember the calmness of the house as I walked through the hallway. The faint scent of dinner, the hum of the old ceiling fan, the quiet comfort of routine. Nothing, absolutely nothing, hinted that the ground beneath my feet was about to break open. Then I heard my father call me. His voice trembled. My father never trembled. When I stepped into the living room, my mother was sitting quietly on the sofa, her hands knotted tightly together as if she were trying to hold on to something slipping through her fingers. Her head was bowed, and even before I saw her face, I sensed the heaviness in the air. Something was terribly wrong. My father stood near the window, staring outside like he couldn't bear to meet my eyes. When he finally turned toward me, I saw something in his expression that chilled me: fear, desperation, and a kind of sorrow I had never seen in him before. His eyes didn't look like the eyes of the man who used to tuck me into bed, who taught me how to ride a bike, who told me that family was everything. They looked like the eyes of a stranger wearing my father's face. "Before I tell you what he asked of me, you..." His voice echoed in my mind for days. That same calm but heavy tone he used when he wanted to control the room without raising his voice. It carried more weight than a shout ever could. My mother barely spoke after that night. Every time I tried to talk to her, she would simply shake her head. "Some things are better left unsaid," she whispered one evening, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. That sentence stayed with me like a haunting echo. What could be so terrible that she couldn't even say it out loud? What was my father hiding? And why was he dragging us into it? As the days passed, the silence became its own kind of storm. I began to notice small things, tiny cracks forming in the walls of our family. Late-night phone calls that ended the moment I stepped into the room. Soft whispers between my parents that died the second I drew near. Shadows in their eyes that hadn't been there before. And then there was the scent. My father would come home later and later, always claiming he had urgent business. But each time, he carried a faint trace of a perfume that didn't belong to my mother. A scent soft and unfamiliar, impossible to ignore. I tried convincing myself it meant nothing. I tried holding on to the father I believed in, the man who had always told me that truth was the foundation of family. But deep down, a quiet voice inside me whispered the words I didn't want to believe. Something is terribly wrong. The tension grew thicker with each passing day. Family dinners turned into silent battles, forks scraping against plates, eyes fixed on anything but each other, emotions trapped behind forced smiles. My younger sister asked one evening, "Is everything okay?" But no one answered her. How do you tell a child that the people she loves most are quietly drifting apart because of a truth too painful to face? Then one night, everything shifted. I overheard my parents arguing. It wasn't loud. In fact, the quietness made it worse. Their voices WER. The woman's smile lingered in my mind long after my father disappeared into that restaurant. I didn't know her name. I had never seen her before. But the way he looked at her, steady, familiar, almost softened, told me everything I needed to know. My chest tightened. The world around me felt blurry and distant. Still, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I stood rooted to the ground as the man I trusted more than anyone stepped into a life I never knew existed and left a part of my world behind. That night, I understood something painful. The truth doesn't only hurt because of betrayal. It hurts because it forces you to see people differently. People you loved. People you believed in. When I finally got home, nothing felt the same. The walls felt closer, as if they had heard everything I had witnessed. The air felt heavier, the floors colder beneath my feet. It was as if the house itself knew a secret I had no idea how to carry. My father came home late, just as he said he would. He walked in with the calmness of someone who believed his lies were still intact. I watched him pour himself a drink, loosen his tie, and sit across from my mother at the table. She didn't even look at him. The silence between them wasn't just quiet, it was loud, suffocating, almost painful. I could have sworn I heard it screaming. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, to ask him why he was breaking the family he had built with his own hands. But something inside me stopped. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was denial. Or maybe it was because I knew that once I said the truth out loud, there would be no way back. Our family would never return to the life we once had. The next few days were unbearable. My mother grew distant. My father grew defensive. Their conversations turned sharp and short. He snapped at her over the smallest things, her cooking, her silence, even the way she looked at him. But his anger wasn't truly at her. His anger was at the trut. My father didn't deny it right away. And in that heavy, breathless silence, he said more than any confession ever could. My mother broke down. Her sobs filled the house with a kind of pain that felt alive, echoing through the walls, reaching into every corner of my chest. My sister clung to me, trembling. I wanted to move, to comfort someone, anyone, but my body refused. I stood frozen, watching the truth unravel the family I had believed was unbreakable. But the truth about the child, that wasn't the end. It wasn't even close. It was only the beginning of something darker, something none of us were prepared for. A few nights later, while trying to calm my sister who had cried herself awake, I overheard another conversation between my parents. Their voices were low, sharp, urgent. And, for the first time, I wondered whether this was about more than infidelity. Something about the way they spoke, fearful, careful, almost whispering danger, made me realize the truth we had uncovered was only the surface. Every clue pointed toward something bigger, something that reached far beyond a broken marriage. My father wasn't just afraid of losing us. He was afraid of being exposed. And whatever he had been hiding held enough weight to destroy more than just our family. This wasn't just betrayal. This was about survival. The night everything broke open. The night the full truth finally came to light was stormy. The kind of storm that felt personal, as if the sky was mirroring what was happening inside our home. Rain hammered against the windows. Thunder rolled like distant anger. Lightning flashed across the living room, throwing sharp shadows across my father's face. He stood in front of us, my mother, my sister, and me, his shoulders heavy, his eyes exhausted. There were no more excuses left. No more lies to hide behind. It was time. My mother's eyes were red and swollen from crying. My sister clung to her hand. I stood near the doorway, my heart racing, bracing. The atmosphere in the house seemed lighter, as if the truth, no matter how painful, had finally given us permission to breathe again. My father sat alone at the kitchen table, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he wasn't drinking. The steam had long disappeared, but he kept staring into it as if he could find his answers there. My mother stood by the window with her arms tightly folded, her gaze fixed on nothing and everything at once. Her eyes looked tired. Exhausted in a way I hadn't seen before, but there was a strange calm resting over her features. For the first time in weeks, no one was shouting, no one was crying, no one was storming out of rooms. We were still. In that heavy silence, my father apologized again. But this time, it wasn't rehearsed or desperate. It was quiet, steady, and painfully honest. He admitted that fear of losing us, fear of facing the consequences of his own choices, had pushed him into hiding truths that should never have been hidden. His voice trembled only once, when he said he wished he had been brave sooner. Over the next few weeks, we tried to rebuild what had been shaken to its core. My father made it clear that the other woman and her child were safe now, and that whatever danger had once hovered over the situation was gone. He told us he had come clean because he could no longer live under the weight of secrets that were slowly crushing him. My mother agreed to counseling, not for him, she clarified, but for herself. She needed to heal, to understand how someone she trusted so deeply could wound her so sharply. She wanted to face the pain instead of letting it harden inside her. Forgiveness was not promised, not even hinted at, but healing was something she was finally willing to reach for. My sister, though deeply hurt, began speaking to him again. Her words were careful, guarded, and small. She still hesitated before calling him Dad, as if the word itself had splinters. But she tried. And trying, in its own frag,